Hello and welcome to the ICorps panel here at Engage 2021. My name is Christina Pellicane and I'm the lead instructor of the Northeast ICorps Hub. And as of yesterday, I'm also the Assistant Director of Innovation at Princeton University, working directly with Rod Priestley. So I'm really excited to be here with you today on my second day at Princeton and the second day of Engage. We have a really great panel discussion lined up for you today to talk about the new Northeast ICorps Hub as well as ICorps overall. So to get us started, I did post a poll, should be visible to you already on the right-hand side of the CVent screen. If you can please complete that. It's just a simple question to ask who you are so we can tailor our discussion accordingly. We have a number of questions that we could address, but I want to make sure that they're applicable to who you are. If there's not a role that quite aligns with your title and affiliation, please do put that in the chat section, as well as what you're interested in learning today. As with all the panels, we really want a lot of engagement, so please do post your questions in the right-hand side of the CVent page as well, and we'll be taking keeping an eye on that. Remember to upvote questions that you like. We'll try to find the ones that are best suited for our panelists and the ones that the audience really wants to have answered. And if you're shy, just post it anonymously. We'll definitely take any questions that are anonymous as well. So today we have a number of panelists from our prestigious universities that are affiliated with the Northeast ICorps Hub, institutions such as Princeton, which is the lead, Rutgers, University of Delaware, Temple, and many others. I'd like to start by introducing each of the panelists as representatives of some of the institutions across our hub. So we'll start with Garry Johnson, who is a former ICorps entrepreneurial lead and now the founder of an accelerator, which uses some of those same ICorps pedagogy. So Garry, please introduce yourself.
Awesome. Hello, everyone. It is great to be here. My name is Garry. As Christina said, I am the founder and executive director of First Founders, Inc., a nonprofit on a mission to build a more equitable and inclusive startup ecosystem. I am an alum of University of Delaware. I got my bachelor's and master's and also participated in ICorps in addition to being an ICorps mentor. So I'm excited to share my insights and why you all should get involved.
Great. Thanks, Garry. Next, we have Jeffrey Robinson, who is an associate professor at the Rutgers Business School, as well as the research lead of our Northeast ICorps Hub. Jeffrey?
Hello, everybody, and welcome. Christina's got it right. I'm at Rutgers University, and at Rutgers, one of my roles is also as a lead of some of our centers for urban entrepreneurship and economic development. And ultimately, my passion is all about startups and especially innovation when it comes to thinking about it in inclusive ways and especially helping young entrepreneurs and new entrepreneurs to achieve their goals.
Great. Thanks, Jeffrey. And next we have Nidhal Bouaynaya, who is from Rowan University. She is the Associate Dean for Research and Graduate Studies at Rowan. Nidhal?
So, hello, my name is Nidhal Bouaynaya. I'm the Associate Dean for Research and Graduate Studies with Rowan University. I also co-founded and I'm the CEO of MRI Math LLC. MRI Math is developed actually an AI and artificial intelligence platform to improve cancer diagnosis, treatment, and prognosis.
Thanks, Nidhal. And finally, we have Shintaro Kao, who is Vice Provost for Innovation and the Executive Director for Drexel Applied Innovation at Drexel University. Shintaro?
Thanks, Christina. And hi, everyone. I'm Shintaro Kao, Vice Provost for Innovation and Executive Director of Drexel Applied Innovation. And as Drexel's Vice Provost for Innovation, I work with Drexel senior leadership and my external advisory board, which I co-chair with the Drexel University President, John Fry, to chart the future course of Drexel's innovation ecosystem. And as the Executive Director of Drexel Applied Innovation, I lead a team of 10 professionals to expand the impact of Drexel research through tech transfer. So on the ICorps front, Drexel Applied Innovation started to support ICorps back in 2018, worked with over 20 teams and have sent 6 teams to the national cohort, and with 3 of those teams receiving SBIRs after ICorps. Really excited about that. And personally, I've been to the national cohort 4 times, twice as industry mentor and twice more as an observer. So really excited to be here. Thank you.
Great. We have a lot of ICorps experience here, so I'm very excited to learn from you all today. For the audience members, I did post everyone's LinkedIn pages in the chat, so you can learn more about their fantastic backgrounds there. So the first question I have is really to level set what is ICorps, because it gets very complex very quickly. There's a lot of jargon, a lot of acronyms, you know, and so I want to make sure that everyone feels like they understand what we're talking about here today. So Nidhal, can you maybe level set for us and tell us what is ICorps, maybe include a little bit about the ICorps Teams program and how that's different from the hubs and how that's different from the nodes and sites?
Sure. So the ICorps program is all about entrepreneurial workforce development and about translation of technologies and enabling economic impact. It's designed to help researchers gain entrepreneurship skills and start a business. The program encouraged the formation of teams that are led by scientists, engineers, new entrepreneurs, and seasoned business advisors. The training provided by the ICORE curriculum is actually evidence and data-driven. So that's pretty much about the ICORE program. Christina, would you like me to talk about the hub?
Yeah, if you can explain what the structure of ICORE is, and then maybe we'll, in the next question, dive a little bit more into what the Northeast ICorps Hub is. But if you can, the hub term has been used a lot in Engage. So maybe what is an ICorps hub and how is that different from the other kinds of hubs we've been hearing about?
So there, maybe, you know, you're better than me in explaining this, but, you know, the ICorps hub, there's a certain number of hubs, right, that are funded by the National Science Foundation. So they provide the curriculum, the training for the ICorps teams. They provide there is the local training, and they prepare basically the teams for the national ICorps curriculum. Christina?
Yeah, you got it all. I don't mean to quiz you. I mean, the hubs are brand new. They haven't even launched yet. So we're still learning as we're building it too. So yes, the hubs are replacing the nodes and sites. So if you've heard about an ICorps node or site, those are going to be what's called archived. And this new hub model is more integrated and more democratic in its structure. So we're really excited to be part of the new and inaugural launch of the hubs that National Science Foundation has funded. So maybe let's talk about the Northeast ICorps Hub and what it represents. Jeffrey, do you want to take that one as our research lead?
Sure. You know, what's interesting about the hubs, it's a new format and a new way of doing things. But what's also critical, as right here at the beginning, is it's a regional approach. You know, it's an ecosystem approach, trying to figure out how to get universities where lots of new technologies and inventions are created to bridge the gap to commercialization. You know, we can figure out lots of great things on a university campus, but how do we get that into the public domain so that it can be used? And so that is, you know, the primary mission of all of these hubs, and in the previous version of this, the nodes and the sites. So the Northeast hub is being led by Princeton University, along with University of Delaware and Rutgers University, and there are other partners who are affiliates who are all part of the same hub: Lehigh, NJIT, Temple, Rowan, Delaware State. And there will be others as we go along. And what's great about it is we're collaborating and coordinating our efforts to do the training. This is really focused on these, what sometimes people call deep tech ventures or deep technologies, which are the ones that are coming out of our science labs. You know, everybody talks about STEM. Well, STEM, when STEM meets entrepreneurship, you know, you got ICorps. But this is not something we train most people to do, especially our scientists. Especially those who are on faculty and their graduate students. So that's where ICorps comes in, to do that training, support people as they go through that process to see if there's really something to their idea, and then take that idea to the next step. Next step could be to create a company. going through the hub program and then the national program. You get training in order to do that. Shintaro mentioned the SBIR program, and the SBIR program is a grant program where we're actually funding some of these innovations through the companies. So there are lots of different paths. Perhaps it's funding and investing, but the starting point is back at the hub, and really happy to be involved with it. And everybody on the screen will at some point be involved with the Northeast hubs and all of the things that are going on with that.
A little teaser there for one of the universities who's not yet announced. All right, so let's jump to maybe Garry. If you want to talk about your experience in ICorps, both as an entrepreneurial lead and a mentor, maybe tell some of the prospective teams, and we had a number of people complete the poll that said they were faculty or grad students who are interested in entrepreneurship. So what is, to you, what's the value of ICorps, and maybe thinking about your perspective as more the grad student type, what was the value to you?
Yeah, for sure. Well, it's exciting to know that there are people in the audience who are interested in getting involved with the hub. I see the value of ICorps really being that experiential learning opportunity, a way for both researchers, grad students, and faculty members to de-risk their assumptions. You may have an idea for something, and maybe you don't have sort of a formal business background. Maybe you didn't take any business classes, but you're interested in pursuing this idea to see if it can become something, to Jeffrey's point, right? It can just be an idea, but you want to see if you can take it somewhere. The ICorps curriculum and community and structure allows you to sort of operate in this sort of safe ecosystem, almost like an incubator, where you're challenged to actually validate that you are solving a real problem with whatever your idea or venture is. And then from there, you're actually challenged to get out of the building and test your assumptions, validate your assumptions with real problem owners, potential customers. And you're going to go through a whole process of actually seeing, is this a viable business? Can this actually become something that creates value for other people? For me, it was awesome because the program actually provided us with a customer discovery stipend. So we were able to actually take trips to conferences, trade shows, to do customer interviews, get face-to-face with people who we believed had the problem. And throughout the duration of the program, we're able to come back to the cohort, be challenged on our assumptions, present to the group, and iterate over time to determine, is this something that after this program, we actually want to, either pivot, perish, or persist. And also sort of just why I love the program is that as a mentor, you get to see this like cross-pollination of ideas. So you have different teams working on different ventures and ideas, and some may be deeper tech than others, but you see each other just stepping up to contribute to the success of their cohort members. So that's why I really like it. Everybody learns from one another, and then at the end of it, everybody wants to come back and support the next group of innovators coming through.
It's great. Thanks, Garry. I think your points are spot on, that it's all about testing and iterating and pivoting. It's not necessarily committing to form a startup. It's really about understanding, is there a viable opportunity for this technology? So the bar is not very high to, as far as like dedicating yourself to the route of being an entrepreneur. It's not about that, right? ICorps is the first stepping stone into, do I want to do this? Is there a market here? Is the team the right team to do this? So it really is not a huge commitment to the path of entrepreneurship. But that said, I think you pointed out rightly so that it is a lot of work during that program. So maybe let's talk about what ICorps is not. So the opposite. So Garry talked to us about what it is, but maybe Shintaro, can you explain maybe some misconceptions about what it is and more specifically what it is not?
Yeah, sure, Christina. So I think ICorps is often thought of as an entry point for teams interested in doing startups. And while that is true, I think there's perhaps all the focus goes into that. But I think the program is a lot more than that. The program has broad value proposition, which touches academic leadership, universities, research enterprise, and tech transfer, and the list goes on. But here's why. So ICORE is about exploring the question, given my innovation, who outside of academia would care about it the most, why and how badly? And this is a great opportunity for those participants from the research community to cultivate industry relationships and gain insight into industry's unmet needs and innovation challenges. So naturally, the findings from ICORE are relevant inputs into efforts to increase industry-sponsored research, technology commercialization, and it's also not a coincidence that what you get out by going through ICORE is essentially a direct plug-in for the broader impact section of many of the NSF grant programs. So several PIs who have gone through the national cohort have reported that their grant win rates have gone up after going through ICORE. So I think that the startup aspect of it get a little bit more press than the others, but there's a lot more to it with the ICORE program.
Great. I think that's a good point. The research outcomes are strong too. It's not just the entrepreneurial outcome. What we say in ICORE is that we're not here to start companies. We're here to create entrepreneurs or even innovators more broadly. So it's about, and Nidhal, you had pointed this out in the first question, it's about, training. That's the core part of it. So let's jump to Nidhal, I guess. You've been through ICORE 4 times, both NSF and NIH ICORE. So, it's a tough program. Maybe give us some honest feedback about what was really difficult about it. What was challenging for you in the ICORE program?
Yes, so ICORE is very challenging, but very rewarding. I would say a challenge, at least for me, as indeed I went to 4 ICOREs, is the time commitment, right? This is serious. When they tell you you put in 20 hours a week, they actually do mean 20 hours a week. It's interviewing the national ICORE 100 customers. When your customers, for example, like for me, are specialized doctors, radiation oncologists. These are not customers that you can pick up the phone or email and you will get an answer. Or, if you pick up the phone, you will go to their secretaries. They will never answer the phone. So, but we were able, there are ways to do a successful ICORE. So for example, a good tip is to go to the conferences that your customers attend. So we attended 2-3 customers where actually our specialized doctors attend, and we were able to meet with them, talk to them. During those meeting times outside of the talks. So that part was pretty challenging, is putting in the work and perform the interviews. I think another challenge, more on the mental side, is to distance ourselves from our technology. Our technology is our baby. So we want to, our first intuition would be, we want to really go and tell the customers, here is what we built. It's great. What do you think? It's great. It can help you do this, help you do that. Well, no, it's not. We should not talk about the technology to the customers. The idea is to ask the customers, what's your pain? What solution would you like to see? And to distance yourself from the technology. That was hard to do actually for my entrepreneurial leads, and at some point for me as well. But I learned that is I really don't want to talk about my technology. I want to understand their pain points. And actually, by understanding and listening to them, it's more about listening rather than marketing and talking about our technology, because then we will not learn anything. We will not be able to build something that they care about. And that's one of the things that we learn in ICORE, which is don't build something that you don't care about and that no one cares about, in a sense. And that, I think, carries on not only in entrepreneurship, in building a business, but also in research as well. That's a lesson that applies, in all aspects. So I would say the main challenge is, again, to summarize, is the time commitment, the 100 interviews, but also mentally to distance yourself from the technology and listen to what the customers want and need and what is their pain, rather than keep talking about how great is your technology.
Right. Great points. 100 interviews in 7 weeks is a lot, right? We all know that. We've all been through ICorps in some form or fashion, and it's about a pace of 17 per week at that rate. So it's a lot of work to find those interviewees, reach out to them. I mean, rejected most of the time, have the interviews, process what you've learned. So it is a lot of work, but in 7 weeks, you learn so much, right? I mean, I think we all have had that experience. There's just a huge shift between where the teams start and where they end in that 7-week program. And I do want to distinguish a lot of what we're talking about here is the National ICorps program, which is something that the NSF funds teams for. And we all, on this panel are either mentors or instructors for that program. The Northeast ICorps Hub is going to be running regional programs, which you would go through before you go into a national program. And it's a shorter course, it's less intense. It's going to be, very, very, very same methodology, but a much more condensed version of it. So maybe, Jeffrey, I'm going to ask you a question about Nidhal pointed out the difficulty and the challenges of ICorps. And one of the things that we used to hear a lot is the culture. It was very relentlessly direct is what it's called. So I know you've done some research recently on, diversity and inclusion in ICorps. Can you talk a little bit about the culture and what you learned in your research, how it relates to DEI?
Sure. It's interesting when you look back at the history of ICorps, which is coming up on really 10 years of great work. There were some challenges along the way. One of the challenges was about how broad the participation was. That's sort of the euphemism for diversity. The diversity on the screen is much more than was evident in the early years of ICorps. Part of it was, an issue of, how it was created and where it was being done, and sort of the way that the approach was taken. That approach was very, you called it relentlessly direct. Some other folks might say, in your face, which doesn't always work for everybody. So, to make a long research story short, we've learned a lot over the years about how to best support the faculty members, the entrepreneurial leads, and the mentors who are going through as teams in the ICorps program. We've created better instruction, figured out ways to do better outreach, and as I would say, things are better, but not all the way there. The ICorps is an intense program anyway, but we want to make sure that everybody's welcome, everybody feels that they belong in the program. And along the way, we want to make sure that the diversity of our nation is reflected in the program. So that's one of the great things about the new Hubs initiative from NSF is that they've kind of made that explicit, and in particular, the Northeast Hub has made that one of our objectives. You can go to the website, which I'm sure we'll put in the chat if it's not already there, and you'll see not only is the leadership diverse, but you'll see that one of the main objectives is to broaden the participation within ICorps program. And I think that's really important, not just from somebody say a social justice perspective, but from an economic perspective. If we want our nation to be competitive, we need to pull in everybody and bring in all the talent. And frankly, in times past, some of our institutions haven't done that very well. ICorps has started to make some major changes to make sure that that's true. And I applaud them, but also want to make sure that that happens across the country.
Absolutely. And I think just in the past year and a half, there's been an intentional shift that was led by the NSF in the culture of ICorps. And, it especially was, brought to the attention of the instructors and the NSF with the movement that happened during the pandemic. And it's all for really good purposes. We are definitely trying to be more inclusive, not just diverse, and making sure that the culture is one that doesn't make people who feel like they might not already belong, having that highlighted, right, even more so by shouting at them or pounding tables, right? This kind of culture is not a very welcoming one. And so that has thankfully been put to the past. So we have a question here. Shintaro, are you unmuted? Do you want to jump in on this point, or?
No, this is a really great discussion thread. I'll just add one quick thing. Really great to see the shift from Christina, what you mentioned as relentlessly direct, and then I think it's more purposefully direct. So yeah, it's really good to see that change and really expanding on the inclusion aspect of the program.
Great. And I know, Garry, we can talk on a whole panel about all the great work that you're doing. First Founders is very specifically focused on underrepresented founders. And then you have Bison Ventures, which I know you were going to talk about, but I'm really excited for you about. So definitely look up what Garry's doing. There's a lot of really cool stuff that he's working on. So Garry, actually, I want to pose the next question to you. It's from the Q&A from an audience member. They asked, what is the process to be accepted to ICORE? And do you have to be a current student or faculty member? Or can you be working? Can you be a working person with a compelling idea? So maybe tell us about when a person should apply for ICORE, and you know, to the best of your ability, the eligibility factors of the regional and national program.
Yeah, for sure. I will certainly try my best. I know things have changed over time. I remember when I participated, we had to be affiliated with the university in some way. So both, you know, students, whether they were undergrads, graduate students, or faculty, could participate. I'm not sure if alumni could participate. I participated as a graduate student. And to the question of just, you know, when should someone participate? I don't think it's ever too early to get started. I think, you know, ICORE is like an accelerator for entrepreneurs. So you're going to learn a lot through that process. And the point isn't for you to already have an established concept that you're married to, and you know, you're married to the value proposition and your solution and who you're going to be selling to. But the whole point is to take your early stage concept or idea through this process of evidence-based entrepreneurship. So I do think the sooner you can participate, the better. Typically, applications will open up, you know, sort of like the first half of the semester. I know at University of Delaware, at one point we had a fall sort of cohort and a spring cohort. At this point, maybe there's 2 cohorts per semester. So things are picking up. I'm not sure what the timeline looks like now, but you know, in your application, you're definitely going to want to have done the research to at least understand at a high level, you know, what problem are you tackling? What problem are you interested in solving in some way? Have you formed some form of a team around you? It doesn't have to be the, you know, official team that's going to execute, but you do want to have, you know, a faculty member on your team who can help advise you. If you have any co-founders, you do want to sort of figure that out. I think it's probably too early to jump into ICORE if you don't have any of these people around you. I think you want to do some work first to build somewhat of a team and a support structure. And then, you know, when the time is right, make that application, because I have seen some teams just sort of like cobble together a team to participate in the program. And since you've never worked together before, like that can lead to some issues, since this is an accelerated program. You're working with people for the first time, and you really want to make sure that you have team members who are aligned on what your goals are. You want people that are definitely going to challenge you and your assumptions, and you're going to challenge their assumptions as well. But you don't want any sort of conflicts to get in the way of you all benefiting from a really phenomenal program. Outside of that, I would say for faculty members, I think it's too late to get involved in the program if you're married to your solution and you are just dead set on, you know, what your value proposition is, who you're going to be selling to and targeting, because ICORE is going to challenge all of those assumptions, and you're going to get really, really frustrated if you're not open to learning, open to essentially changing your mind, you know, going out, getting that evidence from your problem owners, your target customers, and actually, you know, hearing from them, hey, this solution as it exists is not exactly, you know, what we need. We need something else. Like, if you're not open to iterating, adapting, and changing over time, then the program's probably not right for you.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's not one where we expect you to have the same the hypotheses that you came in with just be validated, right? That's not, you haven't learned anything if you're only confirming your opinions or your assumptions. So great, thank you, great points. And just to clarify on the new hub, the ICorps Northeast Hub model, we are planning to run 6 regional cohorts a year. These will all be virtual. So any of the university affiliated teams in the Northeast, and actually more broadly, since we're virtual, are welcome to apply. We don't have an application form just yet because we haven't launched, but we do have the website and the info at ICorps. What is it? ICorps Hub. I'll put it in the chat. ICorpsNortheastHub.org is our email address. So if you want to shoot a note there, we can definitely let you know when the applications are live. But we are going to be running a lot of regional programs, and those will be, again, the pathway to get into the national program. So I think, and there was a question from the audience about the difference between the NSF and NIH ICorps program. So maybe Nidhal, can you address how the NIH program is slightly different from NSF?
Sure. So very similar in the core, actually very similar in the sense of the interviews. You have 100 interviews in the same of time commitment, 20 hours a week. In terms of data-driven and evidence-based commercialization. However, the main difference is that NIH at some point is going to take a cohort and distribute it into, I believe, 4 sub-cohorts based on whether you are a medical device or therapeutics, or based on the FDA pathway that you may follow. That's the main difference. So the other difference is that with NIH, you will be talking about FDA pathways. In NSF, not necessarily, or we actually don't, the program doesn't. The other difference that I found is that with NIH, you also talk about VCs, venture capitalists, whereas with NSF, we don't. But otherwise, I would say to a huge extent, it is basically the same program, if not for the FDA, except for the FDA pathway part. But most of the curriculum, yes, is similar. The time commitment, the data-driven and evidence aspects of the curriculum. So everything that Garry said about, actually one of the requirements, I would say, Garry said, if you're not open-minded to listen to your customers and maybe actually change, that's called pivoting. In NIH ICorps, actually, you are committed. You actually have to sign and say, I'm willing to pivot based on the data and evidence in your little write-up. So yes, having an open mind and the ability to pivot if the data requires you, in a sense, to pivot is a requirement, actually, of NIH.
Perfect. Thank you. And just to point out, if you didn't, Nidhal, the NIH starting point is slightly different from NSF. So you have to have an SBIR phase 1 already to go through the ICorps program at NIH.
Good point. A great point. Let me add about that. So with NSF, actually, if you have an idea or a concept, you can apply, to the regional ICorps. And then if you have you've passed successfully a regional ICorps, you can apply to the national NSF ICorps. For NIH, you must have an SBIR funding prior to applying to ICorps. So if you get awarded, SBIR stands for Small Business Innovation Research. It's basically a grant or a contract, right, for your small business. Then it comes with an ICorps, basically an additional $55K. They say, would you like to go through ICorps? So everybody who goes through ICorps in NIH must have had an SBIR funding.
Right. So to at least verbally describe the pathway with NSF, it's go through a regional program, for example, one that the Northeast ICorps Hub will be running, then go to a national ICorps program, and then an SBIR phase 1. And as an NSF awardee with the SBIR program, there's now a program called Beat the Odds Bootcamp, which is pretty much another version of ICorps, and you get a $20,000 supplement to your grant there. So you go through another version of ICorps and then a phase 2. With NIH, it's SBIR phase 1, ICorps, and then a phase 2. A little more straightforward. So great, thanks. And Shintaro, I want to pose a question to you because there were a number of entrepreneurial program managers who fill out the poll. And, I think there's some really interesting things that Drexel is doing as an institution to support entrepreneurs and innovators at the faculty level. And so I'd love to hear what you're doing, what you're up to, and how you're changing things at the institution.
Yeah, of course, Christina, and thanks for the question. Really excited to talk about some of the programs. But so in the panel so far, we talked about all the ways in which ICORE is great. And I think this program moves the needle in terms of translating research into impact, right? So at Drexel, we really wanted to make it clear to our community that this is a program that we want to support at the institutional level. So one of the things that came out of that thought is a program called the Drexel Express Startup License Program, but it's pretty simple. So Drexel entrepreneurial teams making it to the national cohort and completing it successfully, and working with my office along the way, there's a pre-negotiated license agreement that would be available for you, and comes with the best terms out there. We've done the benchmarks. We've socialized the terms with over 50 VCs, relevant VCs who invest in university spinouts. So we think it's a great way to send a message to the community. We really do support it, and have fun. So.
And what about the idea of promotion and tenure being part of, or really including, entrepreneurial activities? What are your thoughts on that, and what have you heard around the ecosystem?
Yeah, no, another great question. I think so. Promotion and tenure packages, look different from university to university. Sometimes how those packages get put together at the school and college level may vary. And typically, from what I heard, from my colleagues, there would be a section about innovation and may contain, things like number of invention disclosures, number of issued patents, but then those numbers don't tell the entire story, or not even close to it, right? So, but if you go through ICORE, the commentary around what those inventions and patents and licensing agreements are actually doing out in the real world. You can talk about the impact that is going to make. That makes for a much more impactful commentary within your PNT package. So that's something that I personally think it's very relevant and should be used more often.
Thanks. Nidhal, I saw you unmuted. Do you want, or Jeffrey, do you guys want to jump in as others at different universities?
Well, yeah, I think what Shintaro just said about PNT packages is really important. And a lot of universities are taking a harder look at how they're evaluating their faculty and how they can include innovation, translation, commercialization. Sometimes people want to shy away from the word entrepreneurship, but those other three terms for sure are all related. And as part of what your package for impact. So it's very, the sort of culture or sea change that is taking place at the university levels and then within departments is really also important. It should be highlighted that because National Science Foundation is behind these efforts, that makes a big difference when it comes to advocating for that position in a department. But ultimately, we're thinking about what the university and the colleges are doing to impact the communities they're in and to society in general, especially through the wonderful inventions and innovations they've come up with.
So, Christina, yeah, it's a great point. So traditionally, tenure and promotion packages are based on the three pillars: research, teaching, and service. We are indeed, we should be looking harder at entrepreneurship. And maybe I think the word entrepreneurship, faculty and academician, we think about it as starting a business. Well, no, it's not necessarily about starting a business. It's more about entrepreneurial mindset development. What ICorps teaches you is not necessarily you must start a business or start an LLC or incorporate it later on. It's about this entrepreneurial mindset development that's quite different from starting a business. I think once academicians, we understand this point, hopefully we may add this fourth pillar, which is entrepreneurship, entrepreneurial development, and innovation. But yes, we are, I think, and I see other colleagues as well, trying to incorporate it and having a harder look at including this aspect into TNR packages. Great point, Christina.
I can't not mention it. It's something I feel very strongly about. And I appreciate Julius Corley, who is our hub co-director, put the ptie.org website in the chat there. So if anyone's interested, take a look at that. It's a great initiative that I hope many others will start to consider as well. So we have 3 minutes left. I want to do a quick round robin of final comments from each of our panelists. Maybe one piece of advice that you'd like to arm our audience with as they think about starting their entrepreneurial journey, spinning out of the lab. Maybe Garry, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I'll keep it simple and just say, I recommend that everybody just take a bet on themselves. Put yourself out there, challenge yourself to grow and develop that entrepreneurial mindset. To Nidhal's point, the NSF program and community is going to just change your whole outlook on what's possible. So just take that leap, go and do it, and we're all here to support you.
Thanks so much, Garry. JR?
Well, let's just point everybody to the website, ICorps Northeast hub.org. It has a lot of information about what we're going to be doing over these next 5 years, and you can get connected to this community no matter where you are in the Northeast or beyond.
Great, and some really exciting research I'm sure that you're going to be sharing with us soon too. Nidhal, final comments?
If you are a faculty in academia, then you are an entrepreneur, right? As we all know, right? You must go and seek that funding, and from that funding, you are running your lab. That's basically, in a sense, that's your business. Take that leap, take that ICorps leap to translate, your lab innovation into commercialization. You are already an entrepreneur. Just open your mind and take that leap.
I love it. Shintaro.
Yeah, well, actually, Nidhal took what I was thinking, but maybe I'll expand it a little more from faculty to researchers in a broader sense, because researchers are some of the best problem solvers out in the universe, right? So harnessing that gift into exploring what impact can be made out in the real world outside of academia. ICorps is a great opportunity to do that. And everyone talked about evidence. I think that word was mentioned, more than a handful of times, but ICorps is a great way to explore evidence-based entrepreneurial endeavor, as opposed to what I sometimes call faith-based. And evidence-based gives you the ability to make very objective, well-informed decisions on how your innovation can make an impact. So, as you heard me before about institutional support for ICorps, I really recommend the viewers of this and this panel to look into ICorps in their future.
Thanks so much, Shintaro. And we weren't able to answer all of the questions, so I would encourage anyone who's interested in ICorps and or who still has questions to please email us at info@icorpsnortheast.org and visit our website, which will be updated again soon as we prepare to launch. So I just want to end with a huge thank you to our panelists for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us here today. And also thank you to Princeton University for bringing us together on this important topic and leading us in the ICorps Northeast Hub. So for our audience, thanks for joining and enjoy the rest of your Engage 2021 sessions. Thank you all.